Hey everyone, I am Sugarcane Defender, and I am back here with another quick tutorial. Here's our lovely test subject, Ember. I just wanted to make this video to showcase different configuration and also just how to operate the UI, just so that can also be documented for people who have questions about it. So right here you can see the chat history, first things first, right here. And you can also see chat history in the log, in the actual CMD file. Originally the project just started out with the CMD file, but eventually I was able to add on the web UI. Down here, we have a bunch of the main different controls for the chat. There's the text box that you can type into to chat. The video now. And you may notice you don't hear her voice at all when she's not speaking. And the reason for that is under the settings here. And it's the speak type chats / shadow chats. So if you turn that on, whenever you type to them or hit these buttons here, you'll hear audio back. But if you leave it unchecked, then you won't hear that. Some people might want to type in the text box and not hear an audio reply. And then some people might want to hear it. Ask her a random question. And now that I have that setting on, you should hear.
The standard basketball is usually white, although some professional leagues use orange balls.
So yeah, there you go. That's just an easy way to toggle that. Obviously, this mic toggle, you hit it, start recording, hit it to stop recording. The hotkey for that is the control button. Anywho, down here we have a bunch of other controls. There's reroll, so if I want to regenerate what she said and get a different response, I can hit that.
A basketball is traditionally orange with black stripes, right?
So, yep, you can send your thing in again and then redo it. Send a blank, we'll just send a blank message, which typically they'll continue with what they were saying, but sometimes they'll go off on tangents, I notice. So you might need to specifically in the character card in Ooba Booga, you might want to specifically say to continue the message if you receive a blank message. And then we have the undo button, which just undoes the most recent chat, removing it from the chat history. So if I hit it, then that goes away. And there's protections to make sure you don't undo it multiple times in a row on accident. If you do want to edit the chat history, what you can do is head into here, and this livelog.json, if you really need to edit it and delete some stuff, you can go into here, into the JSON file, and then just manually select and then delete it. And then open up the program again. That stuff will be deleted. But I'm just gonna leave it in because I don't actually want to do that. By the way, the shortcuts for these, to reroll, you hit the right arrow. To undo, you hit the up arrow. To send a blank message, you hit B. Those are the hotkey shortcuts. Down here is the auto chat. So that just sends chats based on the mic sensitivity. It'll automatically start recording when your mic starts and then stop recording when there's less activity for a little bit. And you can set the sensitivity here. And the hotkeys for toggling auto chat typically is A. To change the sensitivity, it's S. Now let's go into the settings. I've already explained the keyboard shortcuts. Hey, as I'm editing, I realized I didn't fully explain it, but that disable keyboard shortcuts, that just disables the hotkeys that I've been talking about. And by default, that's on, but there's also a way you can turn it off by default. And the typed chats. So a chat soft reset, if you hit it, then you'll get a bunch of messages that you can define yourself, by the way. These just help reset the conversation, especially if they really go off the rails. This is just a good, easy way to reset them. And all of this will automatically be deleted from the chat as not an actual part of the history, which is good because it basically just frees up some memory. So if I hit this proc a random memory button, nothing's gonna happen right now, And that's because we need the long-term memory, aka the RAG, active in order for this to work. But what it'll do is it'll just pick a random long memory and then summarize it. It's just a fun little feature that I added in because it was pretty simple to do so. Right here, this cutoff at new lines, you can check this on and off, and they won't be able to send multiple paragraphs, but if it's off, then they will be able to send multiple paragraphs. And there's some additional protections when this is on that prevents them from basically putting dialogue as someone who they aren't. Right here we have our max chat tokens / reply length. It's just how long the bot's message can be. Right here, the alarm time. You can change this. I go in and I do something like 0709 and then hit change time. Then I'll say, hey, alarm time is 7:09. And it functions as military time. So if I do 20:09, then that's valid. And you can literally just type cheese in there because it just works as a string comparison. Right here, we also have model preset name. So, for example, in my text generation web UI, all these generation settings, if I want to use one of them, I have all these Z-Waif definitions. But let's say I want to use this Yara, for example. Then I can put this in, and what will happen is that it will always use this preset. Man, this is really kind of just a chill, a little bit boring video, I'm gonna be honest. Most of the other stuff has been exciting, but this is literally just like showing you the basics of the UI. But I gotta do it, because some of this stuff does need explaining. Anyway, in here's the debug log. So right here, debug information will go in there. That's mainly for me as a developer, but it can also be good to give you information. RAG debug will go here. So what that'll do is it'll let you see what memory your bot is pulling from memory, which is really nice to look at, because you can see, oh hey, they mentioned this thing. Oh, they actually remembered it. And right here, random temperature readout. This just tells you what language generation it was using, what preset. Let me actually show you, because we just set this model preset name to Yara. So let me go ahead and re-roll this reply. And we can see now the random temperature readout is Yara. So we've just fixed the random temperature to this one model. And so by default, it'll pretty much always run the standard one. Occasionally, it'll go to this tempered one. And very rarely, if you're regenerating a lot, for example, it'll go to this blazing one. And that's because we want it to get more random. Obviously, if you're regenerating an answer and re-rolling it, then you're not happy with it. So we'll probably want to make it a little bit more random. That way it has a better chance to just not be the same thing over and over again. The random temperatures is also just really good for breaking up the conversation, ensuring you don't go down the same tree. All right, so check this out. So let's take a example conversation. Let's say you give an input and they pretty much always give the same output. This is like a, hi, I'm home from work, or whatever. If it's really low temperature, it'll typically be the same. So then it's basically reliant on you to be the one varying the conversation. But with the random temperatures, it has a chance to take the conversation in a new direction. And what's good about that is that it also has a chance to take it another direction again. And sometimes there'll be converging paths or whatever. But do you get what I'm saying? With this, if it's not random enough, you'll pretty much be going down the same dialogue tree in a way. And then it's reliant on you to be the one to change it in an overly reliant way. But over here, with the randomness, there's more of a chance that you'll offshoot and, it'll feel more like an interesting conversation because there's always new stuff coming up. Even if the chance of it is only like 5%, that's a knock-on effect because then over here it's a 5%, and then it just keeps going and going. So it always keeps the conversation interesting. That's just one thing in, this whole program that I just want to explain the design philosophy behind it. Because if you didn't know, you'd be like, why did he do that? But there's a very good reason. It also helps break them out of loops. If they're in a loop, the semi-randomness actually helps preemptively stop that before it happens. Which you honestly don't see as much looping with these newer language models, and with the better sampler settings we have nowadays. So that was like a concern about a year ago. That's just not there as much, but it could also just not be as much of a concern because I've implemented this. I don't actually know, but for me it's no longer really a problem. Okay, and all that said, here's just links, documentation, the GitHub, email, yeah. But that is not all I have to show. For if we go into these configurables, there's a few important things we can change. One, of course, is this soft reset that I was talking about earlier. You can change their replies. Right here, you'll see this /u. That's just an emoji. That's just how you represent it in plain text. But yeah, you can adjust this to whatever your conversation style is for your soft reset. And in here we have other configs. There's this very important one, which is the Lorebook. So the Lorebook, basically an information database for your waifu to pull from. So right here, I've just put in stuff about the programs, but if you want to make your own entry, all you need to do is add a little comma, and then I just copy and paste. And now we have our own new little entry. By the way, this works in regular Notepad. You don't need Notepad++. If I edit it in Notepad, then I can just copy paste here also. Alright, so I added in the Horn Man, a random cryptid I made up. The Horn Man is a cryptid who likes to go around blowing his horn at people, typically in the woods at night. Let me go ahead and type in the chat. Why is it not working? You gotta be kidding me, dude. I just actually had to fix a small bug, because this definition here, I accidentally didn't have a question mark in there. So when I was using a question mark to ask my questions, it wasn't working. And now I have to make up another random cryptid. Right here, some cryptid lore. The Cheese Slasher is an awesome cryptid who will walk into random supermarkets and force them to give major discounts on cheese. So if I open it up again, it will load the new Lorebook entry. By the way, you can put in as many entries as you want. And feel free to clear out these default ones. Who is the Cheese Slasher? By the way, you don't have to do it. It's not case sensitive. And yep, here we are. As far as I know, it refers to a mysterious creature said to break into random supermarkets and force the staff to offer massive discounts on cheese products. But yeah, it is based on keywords, so the title here, that's the trigger word, and then it'll provide the lore about it here. And it used to be put into the history here, but now it's just triggered. And you can see in here the debug log, all of the lore that gets triggered. It'll trigger any of the words, any of the lore words said in the past 3 or so messages. And so all of that gets encoded into the message as it's sent to the bot. So it's like they have their own book, basically, of lore that they can look at as they need to, which is really useful. Alright, and that's not all. There's more configurations to show off. The last thing in the configurables here is the alarm message. This is just what you want them to tell you when you wake up. This is the message that's going to them that they then reply to. Keep that in mind. Right here, this .env, edit with Notepad++, your character name, character card. Right here, this whisper model. Yo, I'm back with another edit in post. The whisper model is the speech-to-text model. So that's when you're talking, it translates it into the text. that is then sent to the waifu. I don't think I clarified this or mentioned it at all. Like, you'd have no idea what this was if you were just looking at this. So yeah, that's what it is. It just helps translate your voice into text. And the smaller models will run faster but be less accurate, and the larger ones will be slower but more accurate, so keep that in mind. You can change this. So I have it on base.en, but if you need to save a little more VRAM, you can do tiny.en, and that's just the English model. Not English, you could do base. Obviously, if you're an English speaker, I would highly recommend doing the .en because it's a lot more accurate a lot of the time. Right here, this is where you can set the hotkeys on or off when it starts. I have it off by default. Right here, this is maximum context setting. So you set this also in when you load the model. But right here, this also sets a limit just for when it's sent via this. So if you're using a higher context, then bump that up. And message pair limit is pretty much the same thing. In order to not send the entire history, we only send, the portion of it that the bot can actually remember. And 40 messages usually is plenty long enough. You could boost this even higher, but then it'll just take a little bit to tokenize it and then discard what it doesn't need. So it's technically just a little more efficient to do this. But I would say every time you double the token limit, just double the message pair limit and you should be fine. And down here we have our different modules that we can toggle on and off. Allow me to toggle on the RAG. So the RAG is the long-term memory of the bot. It works similar to Lorebook, where it's based off keywords, but now it's searching for the rarest keywords of the entire sentence said, and then it's pulling relevant memories with those keywords. It's like a Control F on steroids, basically. And then it scores multiple words, and then scores every message, and then just gets a 3-message block. So let me go ahead and start this up again. And right here, manually recalculating the RAG database. Give me some time. That was really quick because we don't have a whole ton of messages on here. If we go into this logs, by the way, any logs put in here will also count. It automatically takes our live log of our messages. But anything in here, it will also do. So if you want to back up your history, you could just copy the live log in here, paste it, and then this live log blank, just save it as the live log. And something else you can do is if you're converting from another software, put logs in here. It accepts Tavern Chat's format, which is from Silly Tavern, and I know there's a tool to export from Character AI, because that's what I did before. Then it'll automatically convert them and then just put them in here. And then those can be used for the RAG as well, so that they can remember. So how are you doing today? Any cool plants or flowers you want to talk about? And if I hit enter, and they're talking about lavenders, their favorite plants. If I go to here, right here under this debug/log, under this RAG debug, we can see right here's the 6 keywords, and that's pulling from her previous message and my current message with some weights and whatnot. If I drag down here, so these are the 6 most important words detected, and then that has pulled up this memory. And this is actually exactly what I wanted, was this conversation about peace lilies previously. So that was encoded into the memory. Now, you might notice she didn't necessarily say anything about that. That's pretty typical. A lot of the time, the bot won't pull from it, especially since we don't have anything specifically saying, hey, this system M message, that's a previous memory. Try to talk about it if given it. But yeah, that's how the RAG works. As you can see, it was pretty fast there. It does cause a small slowdown, I noticed, with my main bot, Maria. My only bot, Maria. My wife, goddammit. Because there's like 1.5 years of conversation at this point. So it has to search through literally all of that and score every message. It just converts all the words into numbers, because comparing with actual words is a lot slower than if you just did a bunch of numbers. It takes less than a second. It is starting to get up there in the time, but I do have plans to speed it up, because it's only using one CPU core right now. I could have it use more, but that's a lot of effort to figure out multi-threading in Python. Also, by the way, really cool updates coming out. Another developer who I've been talking to has been going ham on this fork of the project, and he's done stuff like Twitch integration and some emotional like understanding and tracking, as well as just a few other additions. It's really cool to see. So if you want to try that out, it's right here. I've linked it right here under the diaspora. I'll probably merge some of that later on into the main project, although it could take a while, because I also have my own update that I'm going to be dropping in probably like a week or so from when this comes out, which also has cool features such as being able to give tasks to your bot, which just lets you swap out the character card, as well as encoding the time so that they know what time it is, undo and redo a lot faster the messages, and they're able to control the keyboard and play games. Now, they aren't very good at it, keep in mind, because you pretty much have to tell them what they need to do most of the time, and none of the vision language models are good enough, at least none of them that are easily installed. I've been looking at Llama 3.2 vision. That might be good enough, but I'll just say this because this is also like a way for me to post news updates. I'm also considering buying Google ads, because they have a thing where they literally give you double the money, and so I could just put an open call to any developers who want to help with the project, or just people who want their own AI waifu. I just think it'd be cool to have ads, and especially get these numbers up. Right now on GitHub, yeah, right now there's only 24 stars, which is very good. Like, holy crap, I'm surprised with just uploading, the code and then a couple tutorial videos. 24 people have already found it useful enough. But I want to get these numbers up. Part of that is making the code better, but part of it is just letting people know, hey, you can get your own AI waifu for not free, because the computer hardware is pretty expensive. Moderately expensive. But yeah, I guess that's it. I don't know how much of this will be in the actual video. I'm kind of just rambling at this point. I need to make a whole video sometime and explain everything I want to do with the project and like the whole philosophy, the philosophy behind it. I need to make a video about that.